when I first bought my bike, I mean, I was
Elated.
and I was, it was a road bike, and I felt like the wind.
Hello and welcome to the No Shortcuts podcast. Today we have a very interesting individual with us. We have Aisha Brocha from Mumbai, who is an illustrator and a triathlete.
I've always
Right.
engaged in some sport, and it would have just continued, but I'm happy to have discovered the discipline of like a triathlete to do these, and to do them back to back is even more fun for me.
We unravel her journey from early days to that of an illustrator and now a triathlete. We also dive into her journey and find how she uses sport as a medium for creativity for her professional work.
I mean, I love being out in the morning hours because I think it's wonderful to be out, and it's nice to be on a road where you're the only thing that's moving, the light is nice. I feel a little sad that I didn't know of all of these things that I'm doing now when I was younger to do. It's absolutely true. I mean, you step out and you start to,
Right.
Look for things that inspire.
So let's hope you enjoyed the show as we dive into her journey, learnings and experiences.
Feel the beat. We are rising high. Legends don't stop till they reach the sky.
No shortcuts,
It's about the work, no easy wins, just a focused mind.
no shortcuts,
The journey runs deep.
no shortcuts.
Now hear them rise.
Aisha, welcome to the No Shortcuts podcast. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me here.
So, for a little more context, we started the No Shortcuts podcast in an attempt to uncover the journey of cyclists, athletes, triathletes, because there's so much to learn from each other,
Right.
and sharing their stories with a larger audience, their experiences, their learnings. And if we can help that 20-year-old or someone sitting in their homes go and pick up a sport and realize the transformative power that sport has, then I think that's a win for us.
Okay. Well, my husband has reassured me that coming here, I am going to be talking to people who are old like me, who want to, who are having a midlife crisis and want to engage in sports. So I'm not talking to the 20-year-olds. I'm talking to all of us,
Yeah.
45 and over, and
Right.
even older. So we're
Correct.
going to get a little bit more of that than the 20-year-olds. So let's hope it works out.
So today we are very excited to, unravel your journey because from that of a mother, artist, photographer to now a triathlete, right? And think of this as a two-way conversation. You can feel free to ask questions to me as well.
I will. You're going to have to teach me a whole bunch of things.
And the very first thing we like to do is to get to know you a little bit more, how your early days were, your childhood. So if you could start at the very beginning.
Okay, I've always been been fond of sport, not competitive sport, but I was lucky, to go to a school where we had a lot of space. It was a residential school, so we had, a campus of 360 acres and 360 children, and every variety of sport was, available to us. But it was a non-competitive school, so I engaged in everything. Never like I think kids in Bombay do, or in city schools do, where you're going and attending competitions and achieving a certain level of talent. So I mean, then I came to Bombay, and then you get sort of caught up in city life, college life, and after my daughter was born, so
Okay.
the second child, I discovered running with Savio de Souza, who's a very well-known coach in South Bombay, and discovered marathons. I used to go and photograph the Mumbai marathon in the early days, and always I wondered at the whole event, and it was that dream run, and I never thought that I would actually get to the other side. So that started. I started like running with this group, and then of course within the group discovered people who were swimming, and so then started a journey of swimming, and then open water swimming, which I mean we never waded into the sea beyond our knees, and this was now going out into the open water and swimming, all endurance sports. So the longer the distance, the better kind of thing. And during COVID, the cycling happened because Bombay, the traffic dissuades you from even thinking about doing these things. But during COVID, it was fantastic. You could ride anywhere. Open roads. And I actually bought my son a bicycle for his 12th birthday.
Okay.
Which, of course, he was not riding, and I was not happy that he should be riding beyond. We didn't even have a compound. Our building doesn't even have a way, as children you can go circle. Yeah. So it would have meant getting onto a main road or whatever. So that cycle just lay there. And during COVID, I took it out and I would ride. I rode all over the place, and then decided that it was a heavy bike. It was one of those MTB, those. I think a Firefox or one of those, weighed a ton. And then I went and bought myself my first Scott, which was a speedster. I mean, I walked into Kenny, saw this bike, called up a friend, said, "Shall I?" And he said, "Go for it." Having bought it, then I realized that it wasn't, there weren't bikes available,
Correct.
Your size of bike and the kind that you wanted. And I didn't know enough about
the whole cycling scene.
Yeah, the whole cycling, like what I could do with a bike. So, before the great race that I took part in, Scott was very, very kind and gave me this fabulous bicycle, which I want to do justice to, but it's, as we've discussed, really hard to find a safe road to ride on. And like every other cyclist, I'm sure, I had a fall and I broke my collarbone.
You did?
I did, 2023.
Okay.
A dog ran into my bike.
Oh.
But then you get back on the bike.
Correct.
And now I don't ride quite as recklessly, which is sad because I think when I, first bought my bike, I was
elated
and I was, it was a road bike and I felt like the wind, and coming down Valkeshwar, which is, it's as, you can go as fast as you want to go kind of thing. And that's where I took my first tumble. And so now I'm a little...
Right.
But I'm still looking for, nice roads to ride on, PBR when we can. But of course, you hear those horror stories, they constantly one's hearing.
Yeah, Mumbai, the landscape, it can go south very fast. There's no space for cyclists to go out there and push the pedal down. You have to, at the same time, look for 100 things that are going around.
Yes, I feel like you need to be like a fly with 1,000 eyes on your head, because it's amazing. I'm riding down Marine Drive, and Marine Drive now, the community of South Bombay cyclists think that Marine Drive, the road is much improved and the surface is good and all of that. But you've got all these intersections, and it's just biker who's going to do a U-turn. I can see a pedestrian who's crossing the road. I can see, and it feels like we're all going to just land up, at the time that I'm going to intersect, we're all going to collide, and this is going to be a disaster. You'll have a nakabandi, and somebody is just stopping as you approach, kind of thing. So my heart's in my mouth always, on that ride. And I know friends of mine who ride really fast on Marine Drive and don't seem to fear, but I'm fearful.
This is something we all as cyclists in Mumbai feel. You're not the only one. We're all in the same boat.
Right.
And I think, the only thing is to find the caveat and find a balance between riding indoors, sometimes outdoors, get out of the city. That's what we all have been doing. We drive around to Lonavala, find trails there, do that and come back.
True. I've had some nice rides. I mean, I love being out in the morning hours because I think it's just it's wonderful to be out, and it's nice to be on a road where you're the only thing that's moving. You know, the light is nice. So I have a house in Alibag, and when I got my first bike, I would do a 40K loop from home, you know, back to home, and it was just
Might have enjoyed that.
fabulous. Still, of course, they dug up large parts of the road in various places, and then that's kind of come to a halt. But constantly, on the lookout for nice roads to ride on, and a community of people that want to come out and ride.
If you heard till now, I'm sure you're enjoying the show. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on YouTube or follow us on the Epilogue Media app on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Now let's get back to the show. They say much of what we do today is led to incidents or experiences of our formative years in the childhood. As you mentioned, you had a very non-competitive school, and there's a lot of sport in your early days.
Including, they had bicycles. I used to ride on a Dudwala bike,
So that athletic pursuit, was the seed sown back then for you to pick it up later in life?
I mean, I would have always done some sport. I've always engaged in some sport, and it would have just continued, but I'm happy to have discovered the discipline of like a triathlete to do these, and to do them back to back is even more fun for me, and I do I do long distance swimming, I do long distance running, and I certainly enjoy, like a long ride.
And as we're speaking about the athletic pursuits, you are also an artist.
Well, I draw. I prefer to call myself an illustrator, but I do draw.
And leading up to today, I've been, kind of going through all the data, all your, illustrations and the content that is up there.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed is that each of your illustrations, they carry a certain energy to them. There is a certain theme, let's say what I observed is of the mundaneness of our everyday lives, which my eye caught.
Lovely. I'm glad. It is that. Yeah.
So would you like to talk about the illustrative side of you and how it was shown in you, let's say from your childhood days leading up to today?
Well, I wasn't academic. Okay, so I was, and I wasn't academic. As I said, it wasn't competitive. The school that I went to was fantastic because that's everything that they encouraged. Non-competition, and they did not enforce academic excellence no excellence. You just existed. So and I was good at art. So thankfully, my parents realized early. My mother realized early enough that this would be a good direction to go. So I studied art after I finished school, and joined an agency and all of those things, and have come back. So I did photography. So I would like to say that I was a photographer by profession and an illustrator by just as a hobby. But the photography now, everybody is a photographer, right? Everybody that owns a phone is a photographer. So there's no place for people like me over there. But I can draw. So I draw. And of course, living in an urban city, that's the content that makes its way into my drawings. The mundaneness of the everyday,
They say artists just don't think at the time of creation.
True.
It is a continuous process.
I'm pretty impressed with your, realizing all of these things at your young age part, because it's absolutely true. I mean, you step out and you start to, look for things that inspire.
Right. And it stems from your day-to-day experiences, the places you go, you travel. Is it the same you're mentioning you like to wake up in the morning and go out, is that your where creativity thrives for you? And you get an aha moment, okay, I'm going to put my
100%.
next stroke this way, my palette is going to have...
Totally. And the nicest part about all the things that we do, I mean, be it running or cycling or swimming, is that you don't, I don't carry my phone. You know, I sort of abhor the idea of people running with their phones. You know, I go out there, I don't have a phone, so you're sort of looking around, you know, enjoying the outdoors, the morning hours, and it's certainly, the mind is fresh and the ideas come, lots of them make their way into the work.
Yeah. Even for me, I mean, you know, when I'm cycling, a lot of, you know, decision making happens during that time, because you're with yourself, you're with your thoughts.
Absolutely.
And I think in that space, you know, you just can't calm your mind, and you need to kind of channelize that energy into some productive work, so that when you're on your desk, you're working, that comes out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
I saw one of your illustrations, which I would really like to bring out, is a woman is putting kind of, you know, the clothes into the machine and their wings on her back.
Those were from the early days of motherhood, when, you feel, you know, like you're doing things for everybody. So, the wings to symbolize my angelic side of me. I think all of that is past now.
Right. So I think, you know, what I'm kind of having to realize is that this athletics and the whole swimming, cycling, running has gone hand in hand with your creativity. It has played a big role, like sport has played a big role to get that creative side, you know, facilitate that.
You know, I look through, now you don't have to sit and sort of recap your life. You know, Google Photos does that for you every morning. They'll make you a little collage.
Right. 1 year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, and you look at that and think, you know, man, I have a wonderful life. I really do. I mean, I do everything that I want. You know, there's lots of, as you say, the work. There's lots of fun events that I do in terms of sport. Lots of places that I visited on account of, you know, the sporting activities that I do, the community of people that I'm with.
Right.
So, it you know, no regrets.
Absolutely.
No shortcuts, no regrets. It's all,
Last year, you took part in the Goa Ironman.
I did.
And that was on your Scott Addict.
It was. The Scott Addict was 2 days old for me. You know, piece of advice is when you go into a competition, you know, you need to be familiar with, you know, all your equipment and your routine. You know, they tell you about not trying anything new on the day of the race. I mean, as much as I was looking forward to riding the bike, unfortunately, that was a race with a lot of learning for me. Being a much, much older athlete than most, I also fell ill the week before. So, you know, I had the viral flu. I willed myself into being able to take part, and then told myself on race day that if I couldn't, I couldn't. But I really wanted to ride the bike, and you know, because it's a closed road.
It is.
You'll never get that. You know, 90 kilometers of just an open road for cycling with no traffic to think
all
of.
All that angst will come out of Mumbai and all the...
So, I mean, the race didn't go as planned for me. It was a killer day. I mean, I was tired, I was recovering, but you know, I would do it again just for that bike ride. In fact, this last weekend was an effort to sort of redeem the not being able to do the Ironman properly, was to go back and take part in the try again to get an open road.
Oh, lovely.
And to be able to ride my bike. So this last weekend we did an Olympic try. The event was organized by Enduro Sports that do the swimathon in Goa.
Right.
And they used to do a triathlon.
Right.
And discontinued doing that for, I think they're just really hard events to organize. It was a lovely event for, you know, and the bike to ride that road was great.
Right. So I think, the cycling that you picked during the lockdown, from your son's bike, you took it around and then slowly you upgraded down the road.
Yeah.
Now, how much has the affinity towards cycling grown over the past couple of years, and how has kind of it changed the way you look at being fit, as compared to you used to do running and then swimming earlier?
Well, no, it's made a huge difference. The running takes a real toll on the body, your knees, your hips, and as we get older, and I'm no spring chicken at all. So and there's a all these young people here, so I'm going to sound like a really decrepit geriatric person, but the truth is, at age 50, you're already wearing glasses. But at age 40, you wake up and suddenly you can't, read like a newspaper because you suddenly find, it's you sort of hit like a birthday and you wake up and it's like, what happened? I can't read anymore. And then you realize you need spectacles. And so, the same way with running,
it impacts your knees.
Yeah, suddenly,
You
there
get
are
these
parts
aches
of your
in your back and your legs.
I've been running for 15 years, so it really hurts. But then when you intersperse it with these other disciplines,
right,
you're still doing a lot of the activity, but it isn't so impactful on those parts of your anatomy. So I think it's great to do mix it up. So no, definitely the riding is there'll be more of it. I have a couple of my older training friends, one of whom is 70 plus now. He's quite an institution, and he used to run a lot, and the running has had to come to a halt.
Correct.
So now he cycles much more than he runs. So I'm hoping that, if the running has to stop, then one could still be on a bike and ride.
Right.
So definitely, it's something that I'm hoping to do a lot more of and find, like, as I mentioned to you earlier, find nicer places to take the bike out to and do quality riding. So
that is something we all yearn for, being Mumbaikars, getting that clean, one safe patch of 20 kilometers to go out there and push the pedal. Right. What would you like to say to kind of the women out there to, let's say, go out there and pick up a sport and see for themselves the power that sport has to change your life, to live a more satisfying, a more healthier version of themselves? What would your advice be to the women?
I think, honestly, I think women are in sport already. Urban women, what used to be and what is now, there's such a growth in women engaging in sport. And I think it'll just get better and better. I do feel younger people maybe, need to engage. I find that we all get into it. You're young, but
later in...
we get into it a little bit later. Perhaps because, we're done with the working and the partying and having the children and stuff like that. But no harm in engaging in it when you're younger and a little more able. I feel a little sad that I didn't know of all of these things that I'm doing now when I was younger to do. I do see kids that are doing it now, but it's just a meager handful. So
right.
No, I think women are out there already, Path. I don't have to, I think we are getting stronger and stronger. Races that we participate in, and you see the women, who are just, and even the older women, and it's incredible. You had Cocky here.
Right.
The last two events I've done, we had these very broad age categories because there weren't too many, people. So from 40 to 59, and so I was competing against two fantastic 40-year-old athletes. And I was thinking that's really unfair because, I mean, if you had a 50 plus age category, I would have come first. But then you have Cocky, who's almost beating them. So there's,
Huge disparity.
Yeah. You have, just now the Goa event that I did, one of the other people that I've been running with a lot and swimming with now, and she wants to ride a bike, and she's 70 years old. And, so we're out there. Women are out there.
Yes. The social tapestry of Mumbai is very unique. It is unlike any other city. And you see people from various backgrounds and different ethnics, and there's also so much contrast in people. There's a broad spectrum of people of different classes and work and everything. Have people kind of seen you go out there, seeing your cycling and approach that, hey, I want to try my hand at cycling, and try this, try that. How have kind of you navigated them and helped them come out?
So recently, there's a girl who runs. I've seen her running up and down. One day she ran into me, literally, and she was like, I saw you on the bike. So I said, yeah. She said, I have a bike. I want to sell it. Okay. So I said, but why? So she said, because, it's too scary to ride out there. And I said, no, don't sell it. Find a group, ride in a group. I think that makes it a bit safer when you're riding with a few other people, because then you're not just the one single person on the road that, might get missed by a vehicle or whatever. But if you have a group of people, you can ride together. And so, she's the start of that. But no, I think there have been a few more people that I've seen who've taken to these, so, I mean, I certainly saw a few people riding and decided that I can, if they can, I can. And now they've seen me. So if I can, they definitely can. So, yeah.
I'm going to rewind a little bit and go to your school.
Yeah.
Because what you mentioned, this open space, non-competitiveness to do what you want, this is actually the mantras of where the schools are going today. They're going back to the drawing board, and they want the informed parents, they want their children to have a more holistic upbringing rather than all those exams and in that structure. What is kind of your advice to the younger generation today who are, spawned with so much digital infrastructure around them?
Not
and
so much.
Live a healthy, more holistic.
Not so much the children, but definitely the parents is, cut the pressure out. I don't know where it's all, taking anybody to.
Right.
I mean, you get, the one chance at life. And I see these young kids, parents that start from, like, before they get into nursery, going absolutely ballistic about, where their child is going to go to school, and then the exam pressure, and at the cost of extracurricular activities or sport or it all becomes so focused on those few marks that mean nothing eventually. So we really do need to cut back on all of that. I mean, mental health issues, every which way you look,
it's on the rise.
Yes, and I mean, we all know that sport, the outdoors, just putting your gadgets away, makes such a difference to your place in your environment and for your mental sanity. So,
right.
Yeah, one hopes that people have the good sense to, take time out for these endeavors, because, if you don't do it when you're young, you'll do it like us when you're old, but that's not as much fun as doing it when you can do it, do it and do it well.
Right. So. I've been fortunate to have a very great set of parents who have, told me to do whatever I want, and they've always encouraged me to do. Today I work at a cycling company, and I mean, I'm living my dream of,
That's
you know.
fantastic.
So I'm really happy that they gave me that, that freedom. Today you're an artist and an athlete because in your schooling days, you had that freedom.
I did.
Because a kid is like a sapling. The way it will take its curve, the way you nurture it.
Yeah.
And if we kind of, the society, the people, kind of the narrative goes around that if you just leave them, they'll find their own path.
They will. But also, I do think parents need to, direct them to the funner things in life.
Right.
Not, as I said, I saw my children go through their school years with, my son who was in a South Bombay school, which was so focused on
Academics.
Yeah, it was just miserable. It was really, from where I came, the child was fine. I could not handle the school. We moved him out. We didn't put our daughter in that school. We put her in a school that was more, in the kind of mindset of my schooling. And I'm glad to have done that. And I wish, schools need to realize that. Parents need to realize that. Encourage children to put away the books up for a little while. It's books, gadgets, all of that. Just breathe easy a little bit. And Bombay it can be stifling. So you don't want to be stifled with, all this added pressure, because just being here is hard enough, I think. No?
It is. Yeah. What do your children say when you go out for your ride and take part in triathlons? Mama is a superwoman.
No. I do this quietly. This is my very much, something that I do. My husband I don't think has any idea of what it really entails. And neither do my children. They've never come out, sadly. They've never ever come out to see me, run past Kemp's Corner on a marathon day, or the medals are in the house, but they engaged in their sport. It's okay. We can't all do the same thing. We drive each other mad. How many bicycles can you have in one house?
That's a conversation every household has of a cyclist having multiple bikes.
Yeah, but if multiple people have multiple bikes, then it'll become a garage, no, for cycles. As it is now, there's 2 in the bedroom.
We can't let this podcast go without talking about Cyrus.
What do you want to say about him?
How has he been as a support system, and what does he have to say for your endeavors of cycling?
He doesn't like cyclists at all. I think he's made that abundantly clear on if you ever gave him a moment to talk about runners and cyclists, he wants to run them all over in the morning hours. So I have to tell my friends when we are running or biking, be careful, because Cyrus is going to the gym and that car will drive past and can knock us all over. So you be very careful. But he's very involved with sport. His sport is bodybuilding, which is quite different from my sport, thankfully.
Poles apart.
Yeah, poles apart. My children have followed him. They're both in the gym.
I see.
And very, involved and committed to working out. That's what they've chosen to do. I'm very happy to do what I do. I wish they would, give what I do a try, because it's so much nicer to be outside than to be in a gym, but that's up to them. If, swimming in the sea, I don't think they even understand what that involves. I try to teach my daughter my son learned how to cycle. He learned on his own. I don't know if Cyrus knows how to cycle. My daughter says she knows how to cycle, but may fall off. I don't know. But,
Do they go and tinker with your bicycle? They ask you what this is, what that?
I wouldn't let them touch my bicycles. No. I think the son sat on the bike one. He's much taller than I am, so the bike's all the wrong size. But he sat on the trainer, and it was pathetic. So it's okay,
At Scott, Aisha, we believe doing the right things for the right reasons. We also firmly believe that the greatest personal achievements, they are no accidents. They are hard earned and well deserved. Your story reflects a similar spirit.
I agree. We put in the hard work.
Why don't you tell us what #no shortcuts mean to you?
No, I mean, I put in the hard work, I mean, I enjoy it. I love it. I do it, but you do train, I mean, that's every day is something gets put in, and it's fantastic when you go out there and you're on the course and, you do well on the course. Those are the rewards. I mean, I don't care for the medals and I don't care for the podiums, and but to be strong when you're, engaging in the event, and
Right.
to do it with, comfortably,
Right, yeah.
and come out of it feeling, not like you're going to fall down and pass out. I think that's reward enough. So, that's...
Correct.
No shortcuts over there. You can't do it with shortcuts, or it won't happen.
Yeah, you have to put in the work and
You put in the work, and the work is fun.
Right.
In fact, the training is more fun than I think the event is kind of, it's the culmination of every phase of training. So you do need the culmination to then move on to the next phase of training. But the training is the best part, I think. And a training with a nice group, it's wonderful.
Right. We have some rapid fires questions with us. Before we move there, any fleeting thoughts and anything that we couldn't cover in our conversation? Any message you'd like to put out across to everybody watching?
I would like to mention, particularly, we've talked about the bad roads. One hopes that the community can get together for definitely safety on the roads. Also, I've done a couple of events which tragically the bike legs didn't happen because, I mean, the last event that I did was in Mangalore. It was another Olympic try at the beginning of February. They had to cancel the cycling route because VIP movement was happening that morning. So I mean, that kind of stuff I just find abysmal in this country. And if this is a platform where there are a few people listening, hopefully
100%.
They will talk to a few more of their friends, and this has to end. When an organizer puts together an event and has spent many months looking for permissions, organizing the event, and these events don't happen overnight. There's a registration date that is put out months in advance. So you can imagine that an organizer is already doing all the running around trying to ensure that the event happens seamlessly. And then when, sadly, VIPs decide to sabotage these events, or, for some sort of political, their own political agenda, it happened. It's pathetic.
Tell me about it. You carry your bike in the flight and you go there, and then you come to know that the bike leg has been cancelled because the place couldn't be cordoned off due to some VIP movement.
Yeah.
How bad can it get from there?
Yeah. I mean, it's shameless, I mean, like what you didn't know, the police didn't tell you. This thing has been in conversation with all authorities that are granting permissions, and then you decide to go for breakfast on that morning. You couldn't do it at 10 o'clock after it's over. So, yeah, I find that really, it's rubbish.
Right.
So,
No, Aisha, it's been great talking to you.
thank you.
I think your ability to bring out the mundanity, see through that lens, have that perceptual lens, and see through things of everyday life and put it out on a canvas. And that speaks volumes on...
Lovely. I'm inspired. I shall go back and continue.
We are glad. And I think a lot of people are going to watch this and feel inspired to pick up something and go out there.
Yeah,
because
let's have a stronger community.
Stronger community.
Yeah, stronger community of riders, a safer community. The more people that do it, the better it'll get for everybody.
Right.
To look out for each other to ride. I mean, another thing that I will say at
Please
my grey head old age is that cyclists, I know, we all want to live in an Insta moment and we all want to have likes and loves and, people following us. But on a cycle, put that bloody phone away, stop trying to shoot each other, shoot yourself. that again, it scares me when I see somebody doing that, because you're asking for trouble, and then when one hears of accidents, you wonder, was it the cyclist? We are reckless. I will say as cyclists are reckless. I never stop at a red light. I'm always going through an intersection. I know I do that, as do all of us. But then don't have your blooming phone in your hand when you're doing that. Stay safe. Right?
Yeah. Right. So, yeah, I think, you've mentioned community a lot of times in the conversation. And I think, especially in a sport like cycling, it falls down to the community. It comes down to that.
It does.
Because it's the community that you engage with, you spend your time with, you cycle with, and you grow together.
Totally.
And I think, with these micro efforts by each of us and people like you talking about it, this place will thrive. And we can make Mumbai a little more bike friendly, more triathlon friendly.
Mumbai and every other place where, people engage
train
in these sports. It would be lovely.
Aisha, before we roll out, we have few rapid fire questions for you. Okay. So I'll fire them. You have to answer them rapidly. All right. So 3 routes you would wish to ride on your bike. 3 popular routes or...
I'd love to ride on the coastal road.
Okay.
PBR is always, it's a nice ride when everything else fails. There's also a route that I'm talking not far from here, but when I drive to Alibag, there's one stretch of road over a hill, which is fabulous. It's a dreadful task getting to the start point. But yeah, I'd love to ride it. And I've been asking a lot of people, if you want to come, we can go and ride it.
Sure, sounds fun. And how about somewhere outside? Let's say outside Mumbai, abroad in India, some place you've seen, heard of, anything like a dream destination to ride?
Anywhere where you have a long stretch of good traffic-free road. Anywhere, if you can tell me where, and I can go, that would be where I would go.
Right. Your favorite snack during the training when you're riding? What do you like to have? Bananas. And your guilty pleasures, like do you have some sweet craving or something?
I don't deprive myself. Yeah, no, I'm the nutrition part is not my strong point. I dislike gels, sadly, but I eat everything else.
Right.
Dates, those
of
are
course,
the things that you
sugars.
carry. Yeah. Coffee.
Right.
Always.
One thing you like about the Scott Addict?
I like everything about the Scott Addict. It's such a smooth little cycle. It really is nice. Right. As is my Speedster. I'm loyal to when I was when I was doing photography actively. All my cameras, they're like my children. And now Scott, both my bikes, I take them out and turn. My Speedster is a solid bike. The Scott Addict it's a really, compared to the Speedster, it's like the wind. And the
slide and
electronic gear shifting, it's like a Rolls Royce compared to the Speedster. So, no, it's both of them I love.
Both of them
I love. So I do train on the Speedster because it's a harder ride. Mm-hmm. And then when you get on the Addict, you can fly.
That's very well put. Yeah. What are your thoughts when you're on the road or swimming or running? What's going on in your head?
As I said to you, a lot of ideas for what I would then put into the work that I do, into my art.
Yes. And
of course, every bloody runner, every bloody pedestrian, all those, the galis are non-stop.
I know. Just
I
get
have
them
a
out.
vocabulary. Yeah.
All right. One bucket list event which you'd like to take part, conquer or something like that. Which is like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to nail that event,
I would like to do a better Ironman. I would like to do the one at Goa because I think
Unfinished business. You have to
unfinished
go unfinished
business.
business. Yeah.
I don't know when. I mean, it does make me really nervous because it was really hard. But maybe if I, if I didn't psych myself out so much as I did with, this, I love Goa, and I know it's hot, and I know it's a hard race, but yeah, I would like to do that.
Right. And the last one, given a choice, you have a safe stretch of road. Would you like to go out riding solo, or let's say with a bunch of friends?
With a bunch of like-minded friends, who are not like
taking pictures and
like-minded friends. There's great fun in like-minded friends who don't make too much noise. Let's say. So I don't want to be solo, but it's nice to have a group. Very nice. My group is great, so I love riding with them.
Yeah, I think nothing better than that. And we look forward at Scott to have a ride together. Let's go and plan one.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in on the No Shortcuts podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Subscribe us at Scott Sports India and follow us on Instagram at Scott Sports India or on the Epilogue Media app. A big shout out to our friends at the Epilogue Media who produced this show. Thank you again for watching.